We're joined here today by former Westminster College women's basketball head coach Tracey Braden, who coached the Blue Jays from 2007 until 2017. Coach, thank you for joining us to take a look back on the previous decade of SLIAC basketball.
Hey, this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Well, let's kick things off. You started your career early on. You had a player of the year player, a three-time first-team all-conference player in Rachel Backus. Can you tell everybody what you remember about Rachel?
There's not enough time, Brian. There's really not enough time. I'm telling you, that kid's special. She was special. And I was told that from a high school coach that kind of got me on her trail. But there's something incredible about Rachel, and that you could walk in a gym and, you know, she's not very big, and think, okay, what's this kid going to do? I mean, come on. And before you got out of the first 10 minutes of the game, you knew exactly who she was. And it was on both ends of the court. She just played with a competitive edge, an intensity, a passion. And I'll never forget this. Her freshman year, we lost a game, and I walked in to the locker room and gave my little post-game speech, whatever, and walked out. I get a phone call from her about 11 o'clock that night that says, "Coach, I got to meet you. I got to meet with you." And I said, "Right now?" And she said, "Yes." And so she just said, we don't do that. We don't lose like that. We don't just, no big deal. She goes, "Whatever we got to do, whatever you need me to do, but we got to change that." And fortunately, I think over time, we did change that. So.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. Just one of those players that really isn't going to accept losing, kind of, helps take that program up,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we talked about the start of your career. Let's talk about the end of your career when you coached another SLIAC Player of the Year, this time Andrea Zalas.
Yeah.
Can you tell everybody about Andrea?
Yeah, I can tell you, I went and watched her play as a senior in high school, and I am not exaggerating a bit. I watched her throw the ball in, get the ball back, dribble it through a press, start the offense, then go into the post and post up. I mean, she literally played every position. And then when we brought her to Westminster, that was one of the great things about Andrea is she could play anywhere I needed her to play. I mean, she could play the point if I needed her to, but she wasn't afraid to go inside and bang with people. And talk about a hard worker, talk about discipline. I mean, she had a down hour. She was in the gym, getting up shots, working on her game. Really, really fun, passionate kid.
My next question, let's go over to Eureka College, where we saw Katie Eaton, the SLIAC's all-time leading scorer, just put together a phenomenal career. What made her such a special player?
You're going to have to bring up Katie Eaton, aren't you? You're going to have to bring up. Hey, listen, Katie was one of those special players too. She just kind of had a bulldog mentality, and then she was so athletic, and she just had a feel for the game. And her first step was really quick. Seriously, I feel like she was the engine that made Eureka go. I mean, they've had some nice players, and they had some nice players at that time. It wouldn't have happened without Katie Eaton. I feel like that. And I wasn't real fond of her when we were competing, but I'll tell you, I got to know her a little bit when she was an assistant. She's a quality person too. And she made us Westminster better because we had to prepare so hard for Eureka.
Sure, you continually try and push yourself against that competition. You had to raise that level, yeah.
Right.
Let's keep it on a roll here. The next player only played 2 years in the SLIAC, but what 2 years it was. Carla Vining of Iowa Wesleyan, a two-time SLIAC Player of the Year. How about Carla?
Well, I can remember playing up there, and I mean, I think we ended up putting 2 or 3 people on her and you couldn't stop her. I mean, and talk about heart. That's what I really think about her. And I was able to get to know her coach a little bit and talk to him. I just think she had a real passion and heart for the game. She just wasn't going to let any injury, anything keep her out. And she played the game with so much respect, I think, for the game and for her opponents. Yeah, she was class. She was a class act. And I'm not exaggerating a bit. I'll never forget. I mean, we change and put junk defense. We change and we go, let's box in 1. Okay, we're going to triangle in 2 and you 2 have her. It didn't matter. You couldn't stop her. Yeah, she was a nice player.
So we've talked a lot about offensive players. Let's talk about one of the prominent defensive players in SLIAC history back towards the early part of the decade in Principia College's Lindsay Sidness. What do you remember about Lindsay?
She could block anything. I remember after the first time playing them, and I'm not kidding, it was just like she was swatting flies. I mean, and I remember right before we played them the next time, I told our players, guys, you can't go in there and just throw up something. I mean, she is so long and she has such good reach. You're going to have to pump fake, or you're going to have to shoot off to the side and take in some of her body, that kind of thing. And I remember getting so frustrated. We were playing up there and we had done drills to practice getting prepared for shooting versus her, pulling up short, using your body, whatever, shot fakes. No, it's like all what we did the 3 days previous, they completely forgot. I remember calling timeout and saying, guys, what's it going to take? I mean, how many times is she going to block our shot, before? And I think I had one kid that game finally buy in and start doing a few things, but she was really agile on her feet for her size. I was real impressed.
Yeah. Moving on, next is Webster's Magaziner, who was a 4-time all-conference player during her career. Can you talk about how difficult that is to be an impact player all 4 years through college?
Oh, man. I actually, honestly, Brian, I didn't know it had been done until you sent me the stuff. I didn't know that we had anybody that had been a 4-time. I'm telling you, that girl, bulldog. She was a bulldog. And it's funny because I know we haven't gotten to the end yet, but everything you're talking about, everything that we're talking about with these young women, they all had that one trait. Maggie was as good as anybody of hating to lose more than they loved to win. There was a competitive drive, and they would not let their team shrink. And Maggie was the same way. She raised the level of everybody around her. And she didn't care what it cost. We're in it to win it. I mean, that was her, and it was on both ends of the floor for her too. I mean, defensively, offensively, I just think offensively, she just had a knack of getting her teammates in the right spots and getting the ball to them at the right times.
Coach, I think you touched on perfectly. That's what makes the difference between a good or an all-conference player and a great or all-decade player. It's that little extra that they do. Absolutely. That they refuse to lose.
Absolutely.
My next question for you is Spalding University joined the league in 2009. During this past decade, they've had such players like Jessica Guy, Kelly Harrod, and Kirsten Hayes that you faced. What do you remember about that trio of Golden Eagles for that program?
Well, Kelly's one of my all-time favorites. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, she was total class. She played the game so hard. The way she interacted with her teammates and her coaches, she played the game real consistently, just right here. She was never too high, too low. Yeah, she's one of my favorites. And Charlie will tell you, I ask about her all the time. Jessica, wow, she could do pretty much anything she wanted to do. She was that gifted, that skilled. And Hayes, oh my gosh, you want to talk about a bulldog. You want to talk about, I don't care, whatever it takes. We're winning this game. If I have to put everybody on my back and get it done. I mean, there was drive, there was passion, there was enthusiasm. And again, she's one of those kids that when you're coaching against her, you're really not too fond of her. But when she graduates and you end up, I mean, she stayed on Charlie's staff, and I was able to spend some time. I'll be honest with you. I tried to get her to come with me here. I mean, she's just one of those kids that has it, you know, and special. Charlie's had some special kids there.
Yeah. And Coach, finally, I just want to ask you, when you look back on this all-decade list, are there any players that, kind of stand out to you that we haven't talked about that, you're glad you're not facing or having to coach against anymore?
No, all of them. And I'll tell you, I would say if I can find any out there that resemble, I'll take you. Because, like I said, they had I can't speak to how they were with their coaches, practice, off the court, that kind of thing. But I'm telling you, come game time, they were competitors. And yeah, such a fun time, Brian. We had some great players this decade. I mean, you look at the list, there's some great names on there. And some young women that have done some great things for their programs, for their teams. And I would encourage everybody, once this comes out, if you check, because I did, you Google these kids and see where they are. They're doing some phenomenal things now, away from the game. And that's what it's all about to me. So I really appreciate you allowing me to be a part of this. It's been fun going back through the memories and reliving some of that.
Yeah, I love hearing all the stories that the coaches are telling about these players, and I really enjoy it too. So thank you for joining us today, and we will catch you on down the road, Coach.
Hey, thanks, Brian. All the best.
All right, thank you.